Ladies and gentlemen, welcome this morning to Team Fairchild's second annual Lift event. Please stand by for the arrival of the official party.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second annual Lift event, Leaders Inspiring for Tomorrow. This event was built by airmen for airmen, so that's why we're going to recognize the airmen in the audience first before we get to our DVs. So give all of yourselves a round of applause for being here today. I appreciate everything you're doing. As you know, some of you have been here last year and you saw the Lift event, the inaugural event, and this is Team Fairchild's second annual. We've learned a lot. We've stepped up our game based on their feedback, and we got other bases that are also creating their own Lift programs based on what Team Fairchild created here last year. So for those of you who worked on this last year, thank you for everything you've done. You've created something amazing, and we're hoping that we can continue this tradition year after year. So this year's theme is Building the Leader in You. And in that theme, we specifically designed the speaker panel. I like to call them the hashtag Grateful 8. So if you have cell phones and you want to talk about what you're seeing, you want to post something on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, feel free to use that Grateful 8. We are so grateful as they are as well. I'm not going to steal the introduction thunder because you're going to hear a little bit about them as they come up on stage. But I will tell you, we have assembled a team far better than the Avengers that just came out yesterday. So, anybody seen it yet? Good? Okay, couple people, good. Looking forward to it. All right, I think you're going to enjoy the day. We have an incredible lineup. You're going to get some great inspiration. Those booklets, you got some note pages in there as well. Feel free to take note. Feel free to take some pictures. And we're going to get on with the show. The last thing I want to announce, as you know, Colonel Samuelson is not here today. He did not skip school, all right? He is with General Everhart and the rest of the AMC wing commanders. They are at AMC Rally. It was just announced today that the city of Spokane won the Abilene Trophy for the best community support. So let's give them a big hand. We have incredible community support. Like I said, that trophy will be coming home, and we'll make sure that the community sees that, and we celebrate that for the next year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our young MC. I like that. So, and we're going to get rolling with the presentation. So thank you. Settle in. We got plenty of breaks for you, but I hope you enjoy the event.
Good morning, Team Fairchild. How y'all doing this morning? All right, first off, I want to thank Colonel Heathman for those opening remarks. I'm Master Sergeant Stephen Watson. I'm from the 92nd Maintenance Squadron, and thank you. So today we have an awesome set of speakers, like Colonel Heathman said, 8 fantastic speakers that are going to open our eyes and open our minds to different leadership qualities and help us find, what's powerful about us. So for today, I'm going to lay a little bit of ground rules, a little bit of sequence of events. So we're going to have 3 breaks throughout the day. So after every 2 speakers, we're going to have a break, about 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to need to have you guys back in your seats at 2 minutes prior to the top of the hour. During these breaks, feel free to network out, meet some of your fellow airmen at Team Fairchild. Also, our CGOC is going to be selling not only burritos, but refreshments and drinks in the back. Also, in addition to our bathrooms that we normally have in the base theater, we have 4 portable potties outside. Please use the top door to get out there. Again, like I said, just please make sure you guys are back in your seats at 2 minutes to the top of the hour. Without further ado, and one last thing, we will be having a raffle today. So not only are we giving away knowledge and development, but we're also giving away some prizes today too. So have your tickets ready. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right on into it. I have a question. How important is 7 seconds to you? Doesn't seem like a long time, does it? Well, our first speaker of the morning, she's a corporate trainer and an image consultant. She helps organizations, helps them understand why people make the decisions that they make, and helps them try to read the minds of their, I guess you would say, their clients and why they're making up these decisions. She's going to help you today discover the potential leadership in you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Sylvie Di Guisto.
I need the slides. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. During the last 7 seconds, something fascinating happened in this room. Something that happens in your life every single day around 3,000 times. No matter if you're a woman or a man, no matter if you're old or young, no matter if you're experienced or not, no matter if you are at the beginning of your career or at the end, no matter if you are in your body or in the body of Mother Teresa, you have all done it. You have judged me. In fact, science knows exactly what just happened in your brain. Your brain just made 11 major decisions about me. You have already decided if I'm trustworthy or not. You have already decided if I'm knowledgeable or not. You have already decided if I'm reliable or not, if I'm successful or not, if this is going to be fun or not. Some of you even thought about my political opinions. Some of you even thought about my religious beliefs. 11 major decisions that you just made about me, and you do it 3,000 times per day in average. And 3,000 times per day, it happens to you. People judge you. Now, you might be impressed by that brain performance, right? 11 major decisions. That sounds amazing, impressive. But actually, it's comparable with the brain performance of a goldfish. And more important, actually, is that afterwards, a very powerful source is going to work against me. It's called confirmation bias. Because you want to be right. You're looking for proof. You want things happen exactly the way you want them to happen. And you ignore anything that goes against your first initial opinion about me. And if things don't happen the way you want them to happen, you are disappointed. Your brain takes you on a journey. It lets you travel. And it looks for proof because we are human beings and we want to be right. You ignore anything that goes against my first initial imprint that I made on you. So let me tell you a story from my private life. I am married to a German husband. I love him dearly, but sometimes it is tough. In his life, everything has to be sorted and organized in a very particular way. The accent that you hear here, that's a Spanish grandmother, an Italian grandfather, a French father, and an Austrian mother. And that's something I cannot fix the next 25 minutes, I promise you. It's going to stay like this. But in my life, as long as we have wine and cheese in our apartment, I'm just fine, right? So I'm that wife that goes to the refrigerator, takes out a bottle of water, drinks some water, puts it back, and doesn't put on the cap as appropriate as my German husband would expect me to put it on. In fact, I leave it a little bit open. Believe it or not, he finds everything in our apartment that I leave open. And every time it ends up in an argument. But he never sees the things that I actually close. And I do close things. It's confirmation bias working against me. And it's confirmation bias working against you if somebody identifies something sloppy on your uniform, for example. And then people look for proof. And they are going to find that sloppiness in your behavior, in the words that you say, in the materials that you bring to the meeting. And they are brutal. All they do is they look at you. Like it or not, we are visual creatures. 90% of information gets transmitted in our brains in a visual way. We just look and we judge. And it has nothing to do if you're a good human or not, because your brain does it automatically. Even my body language, for example, is something that gets transmitted in your brain right now as a visual image. Even if we sometimes hear somebody on the phone and all we know is his or her voice, we do think that we know how that person looks like. And on that way, you're going to face some stereotypes, some boxes they put you in. And I do know that since we are little, we learn that stereotyping is bad, 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 bad. But I need you to understand that I am in the business of stereotyping. It's my profession that I chose. And that there is a big difference between stereotyping and judging. I can tell you there's a stereotype out there that 78% of people think you are more powerful if you are tall. Does that mean that every person that is tall is powerful? No, that would be judging. I can tell you that 68% of people think that you are not a high performer if you are overweight. Does that mean that every overweight person is not a high performer? No. Same here. That would be judging. I can tell you that 58% of people think that you are more successful if you have straight and white teeth. Does it mean every person with straight and white teeth is successful? No. But those stereotypes, they exist. And usually when people meet me and know that I'm in the business of stereotyping or in the business of first impressions, they ask me, so what is it? Tell me. What is my first impression? Is it good? And I say, I don't know. Because first of all, I need you to define what you want it to be. And then I can tell you if that's the first impression you make. So today I challenge you. I want you to define what is the first impression that you want to make every single day. What is that one word that should pop up in everybody's mind when they experience you? And it can only be one word, because we don't save stories up here in our brain. We imprint one word. So you have your booklets in front of you. Write down that one word. What is that one word you want to be known for? What is that one word that should pop up in everybody's mind when they see you? No matter if it's here on the base or no matter if it's off the base. No matter if it's your colleague, your boss, your family, your neighbors. What is that one word you want to be known for? Because you are all individuals, and for today it's probably the most important word that you have to stick by. Because you shouldn't change. Successful leaders are authentic, and they know exactly what they want to be known for. But then all of you, obviously and visually, are here because you serve this country. And people want to see something in you. When you make a first impression on somebody else. They take into consideration that you serve this country. So what do you think? What do they want to see in you? What is the word they want them to pop up in their brains? And I can tell you, I sourced those words since 7 years in different industries with different professions. And what do you think is that one word they want to see in you the first 7 seconds? It is trust. They want to trust you. And it is your decision only if you give them that word right at the beginning, because then confirmation bias will work for you. So next to that word that you just wrote down, write down the second most important word, which happens to be trust. And now let's find out if that's really the first impression that you make. I need all of you to take out your phones right now. Take them out. And follow instructions. I need all of you to turn on the camera feature. Turn on the camera feature. To take a picture. Turn on the camera feature. Now turn it over to a selfie. Selfie feature. Okay? Selfie. Hold it in front of you, and that now very important. Before you take that selfie, most important instruction, do not pose. Do not pose. Just take a selfie. Do not pose. And now look at it. Look at it. That's your first impression. And now, wait a little bit, we are not ready. Show it to your neighbor. Show it to your neighbor. That is your first impression. And I cannot tell you if that's good or not. Only you can tell yourself. Because keep in mind, 90% of the day you do not pose. 90% of the day people experience you exactly like that. 90% of the day it is your decision and opportunity only if you show the 2 words that you just wrote down. So when you look at that selfie, I need you to remind those 2 words. Do you show trust? And do you show whatever you just wrote down? And then you have to take into consideration that it's more than just that selfie, of course. It's something what I call the ABCD of your imprint. When you imprint that one word and people look at you and you make a first impression, you do it based on those first 4 factors. The first one happened to be your appearance, the way you look. Like it or not. We just look at people and we think we know something about them. That includes your body image. Are you tall? Are you short? Are you overweight? Are you underweight? Does your body look healthy? Do you take care of it? And hopefully, you cover that body with clothes. And what do they say about you besides the uniform that you wear? Do you take care of them? Do you take care of yourself? Your hair, your accessories, your shoes, everything. We just look, and then we think we know something about you. But to be very clear, looking good is great, but it's not enough. Because at one point you are going to behave, your behavior. That is first and foremost your attitude. And there is only one person who has an influence on your attitude. It's not your boss, it's not your colleague, it's nobody on the base, other than you yourself. And it includes your body language or your social and your business etiquette skills. How do you approach people in those first 7 seconds? Do you shake hands? Do you look them into the eyes? Are you on your phone? Do you stand up first or last? Do you let them walk out of the elevator first and last? Those are all tiny things that will have an impact on how people think about you. And then there is the C for communication, because at one point you're going to say something. And it's about what you say and how you say it. Your voice is a very powerful tool. It's like an instrument that you play every single day. And most of us do not learn to play that instrument. We just use it. And how do you start conversations? We know that the first 11 words of every single conversation are the most important ones. People will remember you for the first 11 words that come out of your mouth. And most often, what is it? How are you doing? There's nothing wrong with asking how you are doing. But will somebody remember you for that? Or are you saying something that's impressive because you did your homework and you prepared yourself and you know the person you are about to meet? That ABC is very common. It's nothing I came up with. But what I have added, though, is the D. Because I find that nowadays, most often we don't make a first impression anymore in person. We make it in a digital way. Every single day, probably you send out emails. Those emails make a first impression too. And you don't even know where they are right now, because somebody could have forwarded them. Your first impression travels with your digital footprint. Or what would I find about you on Google? If I would Google your name right now, what do your social media profiles say about you? Now you might think, well, wait a little bit. That is private. That has nothing to do with the fact that I serve for the Air Force. So let me give you a lesson. Private and internet, those two things just don't belong together. When people look at you online, then they don't see you as an individual, as a private individual only. Of course, they take into consideration that you serve this country. So what would you think when people judge you during those first 7 seconds? Which one is the most important component? Is it the A, the B, the C, the D? Just shout it out. What do you think? A? C? B? Very common answers. But here's the truth, the reality. First of all, I have to change the order for you. Because your digital footprint has become tremendously important. Right now, somebody could just Google your name and make a major decision and judgment about you. You cannot stop anymore that it happens. What you can do, though, is you can influence what they find. And then there is the big chunk of appearance. You were right. And why is that so big? Because we are visual creatures, and it's like a filter that you put in front of you. And during your first impression, people do not take the time to look through that filter. And then, of course, at one point, you're going to behave and communicate. So when we talk about that digital footprint today, I need you to be aware that there are two different ones that you leave every single day. The first one is the conscious one. The one that you are probably aware about. But there is a second one, the unconscious one, that most people are not aware of, but that has a major impact on how people perceive you. So when we talk about the conscious one, I'm sure that you are aware that your profile pictures, your headers, but also your usernames, the hashtags, your friends list, everything that you choose online has an impact on how people perceive you. And there is only one person who can impact that footprint. But there is also a second one, the unconscious one. The time that you spend online, for example. What does that say about you? How often, just be honest, did you see somebody on your Facebook profile who posted 72 times per day and you thought, does he or she not have anything else to do than to be on social media? Same happens to you. Or the quality of your posts, or the people you are connected with, or the fake profiles that are out there about you, and you are not even aware of them, because one day back then you joined one of those games on Facebook to find out how your pretty face looks on a Hollywood movie poster. Did you ever wonder what happens with the data that you give them for free by accessing your profile? Chances are high that there is a profile out there with your face and with your name, and just a tiny typo in it, so that nobody notices. So, I give you some homework for today. The first thing that I want you to do is to find out what your digital footprint actually is. To go home and be very selfish and Google your name. And not only your name, I want you to Google your name with a typo. I want you to Google your name with quotation marks. I want you to Google your name with your email address. I want you to Google your name in combination with this space. I want you to look at all the tabs in every single browser that you have, because there might be images, there might be videos, there might be news, something out there you are even not aware of. However, very important, when you look at the picture behind me, there is a little globe on the right side. And that little globe allows you to see the internet in something called incognito mode. Because if you Google your name on your computer and check on your digital footprint, your computer shows you your footprint the way it's best for you, because your computer knows it's you. And you see something very different from what we see. So you have to search yourself in something called incognito mode. And then three other things are going to happen. The first one is the obvious problem. Right? There is something out there about you where now you look at it and think, surfing for the Air Force, and that picture doesn't fit together anymore. It doesn't say anything, or it is not representative with the two words you just wrote down. Then you have to delete it. Delete it soon. Because if you found it, your colleagues in this room and outside this room probably already found it too. And then there is the not so obvious problem, which is you don't find anything. Nothing. Which is not good either. Because then people, don't you get suspicious if you don't find anything about people on the internet nowadays? Do they even exist? Do they have something to hide? And then there is the potential problem. And that's not so obvious, but it's like a ticking bomb every single day. So what is the potential problem? Some of you might have a very common name. Some of you might share that name with somebody else. And therefore, some of you won't have an influence on their digital footprint as soon as the other person has. So you might think, how should that happen? Well, let me show you some gentlemen. Those faces behind me, those are all gentlemen who could be your brothers, your fathers, your sons, your colleagues. They could serve for the army or not. They could be in this room. All amazing human beings with big dreams and big careers in front of them. Guess how their digital footprint changed one day when this gentleman showed up. Because they all share his name. So you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself, and you have to make sure that you own your name on the internet. You own your reputation and your first impression on the internet. And therefore, tonight, I also need you to sign up at every single social media platform that is out there. At everyone. And I'm not saying you should use them. Use a random email address, a private one that you have, but you have to own your name on Snapchat, because if you don't own it, somebody else could one day. You have to own your name on the internet. And then you have to monitor it every single day. If you don't want to Google yourself, then create a Google alert. It's for free. And Google will do the job and send you an email as soon as somebody does something and your name shows up. And you are responsible for your settings. You have to control your image online and offline. So you might want to work through your settings and see who can see what I do online. And in the best way, you work with prevention. Very often in the corporations I speak, managers come to me and say, well, back then I was at that holiday party. And then, we got a little bit drunk, and then there were pictures taken, and now they are on that Facebook profile. Can you help me? What can I do now? And I say, well, what about the idea of not getting drunk at a holiday party first? And work on that issue. So, unfortunately, people always see and find the things that are wrong. And they never see and find the things that are right. And the same happens to you online and offline. You don't leave Facebook in the evening and say, I'm so glad nobody posted something stupid today. You don't leave a meeting and said, everybody had such a fresh breath today. You don't leave this space and say, wow, everybody had such an amazing body language this day. We always see the things that are wrong. You didn't go with me through that slide deck, and on every slide you said, wow, she didn't have a typo. Good for her. But the moment you just saw it, it could have changed everything. Everything, the hard work that I just did during the last 20 minutes, it could have changed the word that I imprinted on you at the very beginning. Because we always notice the things that are wrong. And sometimes tiny details might change the way people think about you.
Welcome. Which one seems like he has more friends? Which one has more imaginary friends? Which one gets invited to more parties? Which one gets invited to more bridge tournaments? Which one is the bad cop? Which of these bosses would give you a raise? Which one would fire you when you ask for a raise? Which one has a better sex life? Which one never puts money into the employee gift pool? Which one really enjoys giving you a ticket? Thank you.
I'm not telling you that you should start chewing gum here. I'm telling you that it's all about the details, and that very often a tiny detail can change the way people think about you. I was about 5 years old, my brother told me. It was back in France. And people started asking me, what do you want to be when you are grown up? And all the other children gave them answers like, I want to be a firefighter, I want to serve for the army, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a nurse. I was 5 years old, and my answer always was, I want to be an American. Nobody knew why, and I actually don't know why. Since ever then, I've worked for this dream here. Since ever then, I have done everything to come to your country. It took quite a while until I turned 36 and I moved here with a 9-day-old baby on my lap. Thank you very much for serving the country. I'm happy to call my home. I will consider it forever as a highlight of my career to serve you for the last 25 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvie. I think you'd be happy to know I also don't put the caps on my bottles of milk either. So our next speaker, I want to lean into with the question, what is something we are mandated to do twice a year with our subordinates? Feedbacks. What's something we wish we could do more? Less feedbacks, huh? Ouch. Well, our next speaker, you got me there, nice. So our next speaker is here to talk about peer coaching and continuous feedback. She's responsible for the leadership and development in the Navy. She's assistant professor at the U.S. Naval War College. Help me welcome today Dr. Liz Cavallaro.
When I started working for the Navy, I had zero experience with the military. I knew nothing. And I wanted to be helpful to the officers I worked with, but I didn't know if I could. It was becoming a coach that broke down that wall and gave me 3 tools that let me connect with them: a coaching mindset, the right questions, and the ability to provide honest feedback. It wasn't my degree. It wasn't my professor job title. It certainly wasn't my leadership experience. It was that I could sit across a table from someone and get them to open up. The backdrop of today's event is build the leader in you. I'm going to add another layer. Build the leader in each other. How can you build the leader in each other? Today, I'll challenge you to use peer coaching to give honest, constructive feedback to help others develop and grow. You can help your peers get better every day, and not just here at work. I don't care if you just use these ideas in your Air Force role. If you retire tomorrow, you can still use these tools to make every other aspect of your life better. So give permission for your mind to wander and dream about the other parts of your life that might also be impacted by these ideas today. Being a coach wasn't my lifelong dream. It was a professional tool I learned to help me do my job, to help others get better. But you don't need a certification to help people. You don't need any training at all. Seriously, not even an hour of CBT. You just need 3 tools: mindset, questions, and feedback. I'll share each of those with you today and challenge you to try coaching each other. Your first tool is the coaching mindset. Let's get into the coaching mindset together. And I'll need a little bit of audience participation, but I know it's still early, so you have tons of energy. So staying where you are, staying seated, do as much of a 360 scan around the room as you can, and notice the people around you. Good. Thank you. Good-looking group. So when you did your scan, who did you happen to lock eyes with first? Who did you have that, hey, what's up moment with? Who did you roll your eyes at, like, what the heck is this lady having us do? There's a very good chance that person might be a good peer coach for you because you already have a rapport. With that person, you can have conversations to help each other get the value of feedback. You can build the leader in each other. Peer coaching is easy once you get some practice, but it can be difficult to get used to. And it's different than sports coaching or other types you might be familiar with. Peer coaching requires being in a mode that is not your normal way of interacting or communicating. Coaching can be more challenging than mentoring, supervising, or counseling, which you probably already have plenty of experience with, either providing or receiving. In coaching, your mindset is, I'm not here to solve this problem. I'm not here to fix this person. I'm not here to talk about my own experience, and I'm not here to tell them what to do. I am here to listen actively and facilitate a candid conversation. I'm here to ask the right questions and provide the useful feedback. And I'm here to help my peer work through this issue. This is your mantra. I don't know the answer, and I don't need to. And you believe in their ability to find the answer. Your role in coaching is to help your peer think. You're also in it to keep them accountable. Who here has ever set a New Year's resolution and not achieved it? Or maybe you're still working hard on it, even though you first set it back in 2013. Your peer as a coach is there to give you the push you need with the belief in your ability to back it up. To coach someone, you don't need to know everything about their job. You don't need to have any authority to tell them what to do. And you definitely don't need to be the expert in the conversation. The Navy has allowed me to coach one-star admirals. I don't know if you can tell this, but I've never actually been a flag officer or general officer. So it is a pretty daunting conversation. But coaching allows me to be helpful to them. And that's the whole point of this, to be helpful, to help your peers get better every day and build the leader in each other. Your second tool is the ability to ask the right questions. And no, this slide isn't the end of the presentation. Good questions are just the beginning. You can ask your peer questions to help bring them clarity. Sometimes just asking someone what they're thinking and why can be so productive. Have you ever been explaining your viewpoint or idea to someone else and gotten much clearer about it than you were before? Like the clarity came from just saying it out loud? Sometimes by wanting someone else to understand us, we come to understand ourselves much better. You can also ask questions to help your peer solve a problem or set and achieve goals. What do you want to achieve? Why is this important to you? What are the barriers and resources? What will success look like? What's another way you could think about this? Do you notice something about the way these questions are worded? They are all open-ended questions. They cannot be answered by just a yes or a no. They require the person to go through a process. They get them thinking and talking, and that's what you're trying to help them do. Throughout the course of today, notice how many closed-ended questions you ask, the ones that can be answered by just a yes or a no. Challenge yourself to try asking more open-ended questions and notice how your conversations change. You might ask your peer a question that you think you already know the answer to, and that's okay. But the point of the conversation is not your opinion on the matter, it's how they're thinking about it. And you can help them figure that out by asking, not telling. And what if you think you need some feedback? There are questions you can ask your peers to get it. You can explain your viewpoint on an issue or on your own performance, and then ask your peer how they see it. Your peer has the opportunity to do something you can't do yourself. They can look at the situation and you in it from a totally different angle, an outside perspective that they can share with you. Like that first impression, they can share that with you from the outside perspective. So ask lots of questions, ask open-ended questions, get your peer thinking, and build the leader in each other. Your third tool is the ability to provide honest feedback. What's the most helpful thing you've said to someone this week? If you've given good, honest feedback, you're in pretty good shape. Why is this so important? Research shows that we do not see ourselves as clearly as others do. Our self-reviews are less accurate than peer reviews. And there are studies that have shown our coworkers can predict our job performance with more accuracy than we can. So your coworkers know the truth, but are they telling you? It can be really hard to get good feedback. Usually, all the burden is on your supervisor to provide you with feedback on your performance. But it can be tough to do well, and it can take up a lot of time if done right. And recently, the Air Force pushed annual evals back later in the career. So you might go a few years before getting a formal performance evaluation and feedback. And it doesn't necessarily get easier at higher levels. The higher you go, the harder it is to get good, honest feedback that's unfiltered. And honesty is the key. Coaching taught me how to tell the honest truth. I don't mean that before coaching I wasn't an honest person. I was. I've actually been told my whole life I am very direct and straightforward. But that can also come across as insensitive. What coaching taught me to do was to be honest with a purpose. And because my coaching comes from a place of caring, the honesty is never insensitivity, it's feedback. It's constructive and useful. It lets me help the person get better. Feedback just has to be something that can help the individual improve. You know those one-star admirals I coach? Well, I actually know very little about the specific details of their job. That's just between you and me, of course. Don't tell the Navy I said that. But that actually doesn't matter, though. What matters is that I have the ability to provide them with feedback, to help them get feedback from others, and then to think through what they want to do with it, how they want to improve. So feedback is really important. Feedback is a gift. When someone gives you positive feedback on your performance, say thank you. And when someone gives you constructive criticism, say thank you. I know, this is easier said than done. Good, honest feedback can be very hard to provide and to receive. Most people aren't very comfortable having these conversations, aren't quite sure how to do it effectively, and just don't get enough opportunities to practice. Aviation debriefs are a great example of honest feedback that is also constructive. But typically, you only do this with the technical and tactical aspects of your work. So you may be very accustomed to saying to a peer something like, "You mixed up steps 4 and 5. You need to follow the manual more closely." Or, "The standard is for this process to take 60 minutes. You're moving through it too fast." In aviation, tough feedback about your performance is accepted because it's make or break, even life or death. So it may be tough to hear, but you take it, and you usually feel comfortable providing it to others. But you may be much less likely to say to a peer something like, "Do you think this tension that keeps coming up between you and Airman Snuffy keeps happening because you never resolved that argument from last year?" Or something like, "Would your new subordinates respond better to your leadership if you got to know them a little better?" When it comes to the more day-to-day stuff or softer skills, you might keep quiet. This just isn't your normal way of talking to each other, and it's also not a cultural norm in the organization. And by the way, this issue isn't specific to the Air Force or even the military. All workplaces struggle with this because it's just human nature. But there is something we can do about it. People develop and grow through a balance of challenge and support. But most peer relationships in the workplace are weighed too heavily toward one or the other. So some people at work might push you really hard, and that challenge is good, but you need support too. Other people, your friends or peers at work, who you trust enough to have honest conversations with, might actually be providing you too much support. For example, when someone struggles at work and we say something just to make them feel better. That might be supportive and nice, but it's not constructive, and it definitely doesn't help the individual improve. It's actually doing that person a disservice, letting them stay stuck. What if instead, when someone struggles, we helped them view the situation from a different perspective? Maybe try a different approach next time. My objective today is to help you have conversations that get you the value of feedback. To do that, you can leverage your peers, your fellow airmen here in this room and out there. You can have conversations that are more useful, really be honest with each other, and help your peer get better every day. You can build the leader in each other using these 3 tools: mindset, questions, and feedback. Okay, so how does this actually work? Let's take a conflict situation, for example. When you did your scan earlier, you might have also seen someone you have conflict or tension with. How could peer coaching help with that? Take this example. When your peer has that same tension with that same frustrating coworker, Airman Snuffy, once again, instead of saying, "Don't worry about it, Snuffy is just a jerk, it's not your fault," try using your coaching tools. Approach the conversation with a coaching mindset. I'm going to help him see this issue from a different perspective. Then ask some questions. What do you think Snuffy's perspective on this whole situation is? Or, what's another way you could approach this that might work a little better? Then provide some honest feedback. I know you don't intend to come across as confrontational, but whenever Snuffy is in the room, your whole demeanor and tone of voice changes. It seems to really affect your ability to listen to each other. Or take another kind of situation. When your peer comes out of that same meeting frustrated every week that her ideas were once again not heard, instead of saying, "Don't worry, you'll get them next time," try using your coaching tools. Approach the conversation with a coaching mindset. I'm going to help her work through this challenge. Then ask some questions. How could you word your ideas differently that might get their attention better? Or, what is it about the way you're presenting yourself in the meeting that might be contributing to this problem? Next, provide some honest feedback. I noticed you usually wait until the very last minute in the meeting to speak up, and when you do, it's not very assertive. Maybe that's why your views are getting lost. So those are just a couple of examples. What if you tried this today? Find a trusted peer and take 10 minutes helping each other using the tools we just discussed: a coaching mindset, the right questions, and the ability to provide honest feedback. Can you help your peer realize something about himself that maybe he never saw before? Can you get your peer to look at the situation from a different perspective? Maybe try a different approach next time. Can you get your peer to stretch herself to do more than she previously believed she could? I challenge you to try peer coaching. You know how to listen. You know how to ask questions. You get to observe your peers all the time, and you can choose to believe in their potential. You already have all the tools you need, so give it a shot. Okay, so that all sounds good, but there are still some challenges we need to work through, right? You might still have some questions. You might be thinking, but won't that be uncomfortable or painful or downright awkward? Yeah, a little bit. But without discomfort, there is no growth. This conversation might be tough. It might not feel as good for either person as just saying, "Don't worry," but it might actually help the person tackle a problem, address a weakness, or learn from a difficult situation and grow. You're offering them a balance of both challenge and support. And if your peer knows that you have their back, that you're asking the tough questions and providing the honest feedback in the spirit of helping them improve, then you get through the uncomfortable and you get to work together. Because feedback really is a gift. And if it's given in that spirit, it can be received in that way too. You might also be thinking, but won't that take a ton of time and energy? Time and energy that, frankly, I don't have? No. This just replaces wasteful time and energy with productive time and energy. You all have conversations with your peers about what's stressing you out today, or how that exercise went, or what problem they're having with Snuffy this week. But often those conversations are in the form of griping, or venting, or maybe just processing, which is good. But you could have those conversations a slightly different way, with a coaching mindset, and use that time and energy so much more effectively, and make that problem less likely to keep occurring, so actually saving you time. And it can also actually bring you energy. That's why I do this. Whether I'm coaching a one-star admiral or the most junior person in the room, this is the most rewarding and fulfilling part of my job. It lets me give back, and that is incredibly energizing. And now for the real question you might have. But I'm in competition with my peers. I'm being compared against them. Do I really want to spend my precious time making them better? Yes, you do. First, one of the things you're being compared on that your leaders are looking for in you is what you bring to the team. Your willingness and ability to develop others is now and will always be the sign of a good leader at any level, in any organization. Second, people getting better isn't a zero-sum game. If your coworkers are better, they're making the organization better, giving you a better place to thrive. And in that place, you get to show your best stuff. So it's good for everyone. Or, if you'll allow me just one Navy expression today, the rising tide lifts all boats. And third, growing, developing, becoming better is a lifetime success plan. It applies to far more than just this job or even your Air Force career. It's your whole life. And regardless of where you end up in the future, this investment in you and your peers will pay off. So put your coaching hats on, ask open-ended questions, give the gift of feedback today, and help your peers get better every day. Build the leader in each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cavallaro. All right, welcome back. How about the CGO's refreshments? Good stuff? Huh? All right. So our third speaker this morning is the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia. Now, what is a Chief Heart Officer, you may ask? Well, she's going to explain that to us. So, as people, we're always looking for a sense of purpose, a sense like a culture of belonging. And today, Ms. Silver is going to help us explain how to find that purpose and that culture of belonging, and help us look through the lens of being 100% human at work. Because let's face it, it's kind of what we are. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Claude Silver.
Okay. I have to take a picture of all you beautiful folks first, because after all, we're talking about culture and we're creating culture in here. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Sergeant. Thanks. Okay, cool. My name is Claude Silver. I have the greatest title in showbiz, Chief Heart Officer. Sometimes people think I'm saying Chief Art Officer, but it's really heart. I oversee what is normally called HR in most functions, human resources, and I have never been in human resources in my entire life, but I have been someone that focuses and cares about people's heart. I oversee 800 people, much like some of you in this room. You oversee a lot of people, and my job is literally to take care of them. I serve them just as you serve your country. And I learn a lot from you. I have learned a lot from the colonel here and from other folks in the military about what it is to be of service and servant leadership. And I'm so excited to be here and just share some of my thoughts that are, quite frankly, really commonsensical. There's nothing magical I have here, I promise you. But I didn't start, as I said, in HR. I started a long time ago studying psychology and really interested in transpersonal psychology, Joseph Campbell, mythology, astrology, Jungian psychology. And in 1997, a long time ago, before Facebook and before Google, so before my digital footprint came along, I was about to start my career in psychology as a therapist, actually, and I got a job. I was living in San Francisco, and I got offered a job that paid me $30,000, and it was in an internet.com company way back in the day. And so I drove my beater Saab down to Palo Alto every day, and then I left psychology over here. But obviously, it's who I am. I've always been a coach and a mentor and a kind of a cheerleader, a player coach, if you will, and really a lot like you are here. I care about people immensely. I absolutely, I would put myself in front of a bus for a person, and really, and it's just something about human beings that I really believe in. I call myself an emotional optimist. I do see the glass as pretty much overflowing, and that's not to say I haven't had my fair share of falls and fails, because God knows I have. However, I believe in the underdog, and I believe in the overachievers, and it's something that I'm really proud to share with you today. A little bit more of what I do at work, and why I'm so proud to be here and so proud to be a Chief Heart Officer. Right now, I think I'm probably still the first, but you know, someone else is tweeting me right now telling me that they're the Chief Heart Officer. So, anyone know of a gentleman named Gary Vaynerchuk? That's who I work for. He's my guy. When I started with him in almost 4 years ago to the day, he hired me actually as a digital strategist, because I've had a very long career in advertising, so absolutely nothing what you guys are doing all day. I used to create strategies for products, give the creative team ideas for why this was so important to get into your hands. This size bottle, you can palm it, it's fresh water, whatnot. And I had a really great career, as I told you in this. But what I really cared about was the people that I worked with all the time, and the building of the teams, and the building of culture, and the building of morale, and the giving feedback, and the coaching, and the mentoring, and having fun. Hard work in what we would consider the trenches, which is nothing like the trenches that you've experienced. But just really understanding and focusing on building resilience with the teams I worked with and having a good time. I met Gary, and it was very obvious, as yin and yang as we are, and if you know him, we really are. I will not be dropping any F-bombs. I might just mention Sergeant Snuffy, but we'll have to see if I find Snuffy. But we both had this incredible similar way of focusing on people and feeling that that the heart of people is really what matters. And I decided to leave the company. I decided to leave the agency 18 months in, because I was no longer interested in trying to figure out how to get this product into your arms. And he said to me, "What is it that you care about?" And I said, "I only care about the people here. I only care about the heartbeat." Da-da! Chief Heart Officer was born. He gave me a KPI. Anyone familiar? Do you use the word KPI here? Key Performance Indicator. So I said to Gary, "How do we know if I'm successful? You know, Chief Heart Officer. I mean, okay, 800 people, okay." And he said, "You will infuse the agency with empathy and touch every single person. Small task, no big deal." This is quote by Maya Angelou is really the motto that I have actually hanging in my office wall, and pretty much I try to remember it every single day. It's the last part of this sentence is the one that I find the most important. It really is, people will never forget how you made them feel. And we've talked a lot about that today already with the first two incredible speakers. For me, the most important thing is when someone leaves my room, or someone leaves a walk with me or having a coffee with me, I want to leave them in a better spot than they came in. I want to have helped them facilitate growth or change or help them remove roadblocks in their life. That just gives me a lot of pride. It really, really does. And so this last part of the sentence is one that I want you to think about today as I continue. So culture is an ongoing experience, right? We're creating culture in this room. I've been welcomed into your culture. You would be welcomed into my culture if you come and visit, like your colonel did. But there is no right, wrong way to do culture. I think we're really all trying to figure it out. And of course, you do have some kind of guardrails to your culture. This is a tried and true organization. Advertising industry is very different. We are trying now, and my job really is to bring more humanity into the workplace. But again, there is no right or wrong way. If someone else had hit it off with Gary and had seen eye to eye, and he gave Bobby or Sally McGee the Chief Heart Officer title, they might be doing it completely different than me. This is the way I'm doing it, and I just want to share a couple things with you. Fundamentally, I believe that in the corporate world, we have lost this idea of humanity. We have really moved away from it. We call people by their titles in the corporate world. We expect people to be apples and apples and apples and apples. And if you're Johnny and Bobby and Sue and Sally, you are all art directors, and you should all direct that piece of creative the same way. That's just not the way it is anymore. I recognize that here, titles are extremely important, as are uniforms, and again, your guardrails, and so I respect that more than you would ever know. But what I have found in my travels, and even last night, and speaking with the colonel, and just really being a human being, is that it is okay to also be an individual. We all have uniqueness to us. Every single person in this room, while there might be 20 mechanics in this room, and 3 people in the legal department, and 4 people in the mess hall and whatnot, you're all different, and you're all bringing very different things to your jobs and to the culture that you're creating, whether or not it's in the small cohorts, in this big room, or in the Air Force in general, or in Spokane. So truly, I believe in teamwork, and I know you do too. And when you focus on each other, when you go from the I, really selfish I, it's very myopic, to the we, things do start to fall into place. You start to empathize with one another. Connection is so incredibly important. I attempted to connect the minute I got out here, which was by taking a photo of you. That was my first piece of connection. And Sylvie talked about this earlier today in terms of trust. You have your impression of me, and that's cool, and I hope you like my red trousers. And if you don't, I'm sorry, next time I'll wear blue. The thing that, what I feel is really essential to building culture are a couple different building blocks, I should say. Connection is truly important. Connection builds trust. You are looking at me, and you're all giving me your attention, and thank you very much. And you're starting to maybe trust a little bit of what I'm saying. You might actually start to empathize and feel for me. Care about one another. We care. You're giving me your attention. I care about you. I'm here. We all want to feel alive in our careers, and all of you do, or else you wouldn't be here. You've chosen this path. You've chosen this course. You've chosen to be in uniform with one another and in this incredible cohort, and you are helping one another to feel your best selves, to be your best selves, because it can't just start. It's not a party of one here. We're all in it together, and so we all want to feel our best. I think that one of the things that's most important is that you show up as you first, and it does start with self. it does start with pride in yourself and the realization that we are all works in progress. We don't just come out and we're perfect and I'm going to be the President of the United States. That would take a lot of work. But I have to at least be authentic with myself, understand that I have limiting beliefs about myself, understand that I have trials and tribulations, understand that I'm an emotional optimist, and provide that and bring that to the table. I can't expect you to make me feel good about me if I'm not feeling good about myself first. I think that's, like I said, pretty commonsensical. So let's see, we're going to walk through 3 human truths. So we're not perfect. I just said that. I have failed a zillion times in my life, and the great thing is that I've had the resilience and the grit to get back up, whether or not that's my community, my friends that have helped me up, my teammates at work, Gary, whomever it was. But I have found the grit and the resilience to stand back up and be proud of who I am, and thus help others be proud of who they are when they stand up. But we cannot grow unless we don't fail, and that's, I think, a fundamental truth. Use your voice. It's something that I'm going to say a little bit later on in the presentation. I really believe that if you are invited to that room, if you're invited to that meeting, if you're invited to go to that dinner, take up space. Use your voice. You've been asked into that meeting for a reason. Yes, you might be a note taker, and that might be part of your role, but you also have a reason for being there. So take up space. Use your voice. Sing, whatever it is. We all want to we have our unique voices, and we all want to be, as I say, show up as you and your unique self. There's someone in here, and maybe it is Snuffy, that loves death metal. Right? Someone does, I'm sure. There you go. I knew it. All right. So again, show up. It's the same thing. Show up as you. Uniqueness is a great thing, even in the midst of uniformity. Cool. Don't hide. So, little psychology 101 here. Anyone know about Abraham Maslow and the hierarchy of needs? Probably a lot of you, I imagine. The bottom of the pyramid, there is safety and security, just our essential water. We need to have shelter and water. And right above that is belonging. We are wired to belong. Human beings are wired to be in connection with one another. It's no surprise that we are in community like this, that there are teams in life. We all, I believe, truly are looking for purpose in our life, whether or not that is meaning, whether or not that we are cultivating a purpose, or like me, I knew I had a greater purpose, which was to not sell a product anymore, although again, I want to thank the world of advertising for giving me that, but my purpose really is to facilitate growth and change with humans and teams and organizations, and really to be of joyful service. I'm very clear on that. And I've had great teachers and coaches to help me get to my purpose. Someone else's purpose in here might have been to become a pilot. Well, how do I become a pilot? Well, the Air Force is a pretty good place to be. And the Air Force shakes your hand and says, great, you give us X amount of years of service, and we will give you training and opportunity and growth and amazing repetitions, and you will get to be a pilot. It's really important, I think, that, I work with 80% millennials, and there are a lot of millennials in this room. And so sometimes millennials come in and we have this great conversation. They look at me when I say, what's your purpose? What are you all about? And they're like, I have no idea. That's cool. I didn't either. So we go through some coaching, some 101. I ask them what their values are. How do they see themselves? How do they think their team sees themselves and whatnot? And then I ask them this really fundamental, basic question. And I love this question because it really stumps a lot of people. Who are you when you're brushing your teeth? When you're standing up in the morning and you're brushing your teeth, you're kind of chill, you're still, you're not looking at your phone, you're probably just like dazing out, looking in the mirror, watching like the dribble down your throat, down your chin. Who are you? And people sometimes say, I'm just chill, I'm just me. Or I'm really focused on how much anxiety I have when I get to work, or I can't wait until the weekend. Or the reason I ask that question is so that people can drop in and be present, and really feel their feet on the floor and really get an idea, get a sense of who they are. Purpose is super important. Achievement. So That pilot, that person that had a purpose and they wanted to become a pilot, at some point they do get to sit in that cockpit and they do get to take off. They are achieving something. It's super important in the workspace, I believe, that people get a sense of achievement. And in a lowercase a, acknowledgement. We all do want to be recognized. And I say that in a lowercase a because I don't think it's ego-led. I don't think that's what we're all after. Certainly not in this organization, because it is a we, not I organization. But achievement is something that we all need to feel. I truly believe that. In the workspace, it's super important. Satisfaction. So I'm satisfied. I'm actually living my purpose right now, and I'm working. I'm putting some sweat into this. You're giving me your attention. I appreciate that. And I'm achieving something. I'm looking at your eyes, and I see some nods. I see some people writing things down, whatnot. And I'm achieving on my purpose, which is to share some of my beliefs on bringing humanity back into the workplace, on corporate culture, on empathetic leadership, whatnot. I'm achieving something. And I'm having to do a little bit of hard work, as I said. I would love a free trip to Bali. I would love a free trip to Tahiti, or someone wants to give me a Land Rover. That would be great. But I don't want to work for free. I really want to, as Gary would call it, hustle. I don't use the word hustle quite, actually, because it gives me a little anxiety, believe it or not. But I like the idea of investment. I've had to put some kind of effort into what it is I'm doing. So going back to what makes a culture thrive, I believe, is seeing and celebrating the uniqueness in one another. We all want to be unique. We're going to bring our unique and our individual death metal selves to the table. But you all also want to see and celebrate what makes other people unique and give them a high five and acknowledge them. You got that little head nod, yeah, I like surfing, you like Pearl Jam, I like Pearl Jam, that's cool. Good. Setting each other up to grow and shine, celebrating the joy at work. So you want to put people in their best positions that you possibly can to kick some butt. You want to see your fellow servicemen and women succeed and achieve. I want to see the people that I work with at VaynerMedia rise through their ranks. I want to see them write that incredible copy for the next Budweiser ad. That's my job. I want to foster their growth. I want to create conditions for my team to thrive in. That's super duper important to me. And that means I need to, as a leader, remove the roadblocks. I need to do a lot of listening. I probably have maybe 20 to 30 one-on-ones every single day, 15-minute one-on-ones. Maybe it's even text messages. But what's most important as I'm in these one-on-ones is I'm doing a heck of a lot of listening, and I'm taking in data in 411. And then I'm looking for patterns with the other people that I meet with. And so let's just say I meet with, in the course of 5 days, I meet with 7 copywriters. And out of those 7 copywriters, 5 tell me that they haven't gotten any opportunity to write copy lately. They're working on Don Julio Tequila, or they're working on Budweiser, they're working on some banking project, but no one has given them the at-bat, the opportunity to do some copywriting. Well, that's a pattern. Then what do? Is I go to the chief creative officer and I think to myself, Steve, you might be overstaffed here. Or what's up? Why aren't we giving this whole group of people the opportunity to write some copy, to do what it is that they said their purpose was? I shook their hand and I said, if you give me 40 to 60 hours of your week, wink, 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 probably more like 60, I will give you at-bats and opportunities and growth. So we need to make sure that I'm the promise that I gave them, that we're fulfilling that promise. But I absolutely need to understand what the roadblocks are, or else I can't do it. So people need to feel really comfortable talking to me or talking to Gary. So being accessible 24/7 is super important. And it is a lot of times 24/7, as you can understand. So this is something that's really interesting. I thought about this slide a lot before I put it in here for the presentation, because I do want to, again, acknowledge that your organization is different than the organization I work at. And speaking up might not be something that is as permitted here. But where I am and where I work, we want people to speak up. I need to hear what's going on, or else I can't fix it, or else we're never going to get better, or else people are going to go sink into their cubicles and they're going to sink into just being another cog in the wheel rather than their individual selves. So I want people to challenge me, and I want people to give me feedback, and I want people to make some waves and have audacity. I really want to see people be big in the room. This is a huge one. No one ever got points for holding back at all. You can't wait for the ball to come to you. In soccer, you have to go to the ball. So don't hold back. And that's something that I really try to share with the group at work, 800 folks. So find moments in your cultures and in your day-to-day and in your teams where you can make an impact. And it doesn't matter if it's the most grandiose impact in the world. It can just be an attaboy, attagirl. It can just be making someone's day better. It can just be helping someone proofread their decks before they go out. Whatever it is, size don't matter. Just be helpful. Huge. Be someone that other people want in the room. And that goes back to setting people up to grow and shine and celebrating joy. Back to the Maya Angelou quote, you want to leave people better than you found them. That's huge. And I really think that this type of empathy is what creates that groundswell of good vibes and good culture at work. I love this quote. It's by Helen Keller, and I really think that going back to being an emotional optimist and seeing the positive in people and seeing what lights them up is super duper important, and it is who I am. Without optimism, what is there? I have absolutely no idea. It feels pretty dark, though, to me. So being able to see the flip side of that coin and being able to see the sunshine through the clouds is really what gets us out of our own way and into that opening where we can truly thrive, not just survive. So I'll leave you with this. How do you contribute to your culture? Something to think about later on during the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Silver. I'll tell you what, that's kind of crazy. How many have been on a deployment here or been on a remote assignment? So we always talk about leaving our work centers always in a better place than what we found it, but I don't think we ever truly reflect on leaving our people better than how we found them. So that was a very powerful message. Our next speaker, he embodies what we're taught and developed from day one. That's taking care of our people. He's been the Spokane Sheriff since 2006. Today he's going to talk to us about the 3 leadership principles. And let me tell you, folks, his resume is a mile long. He's been a patrol deputy, a SWAT team operator and supervisor, and a property crimes detective. Currently serving his 3rd term. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich.
First of all, I want to tell you how much of an honor it is for me to be speaking in front of you because you are a class act. And for the camera people, I am your worst nightmare because I move all the time. Okay, test time. Oh, you weren't expecting that, were you? What has been the common themes of the presentations that you've heard? Take care of your people. Trust come in there somewhere? Okay. Honesty come in there somewhere? Take care of your people. There are 3 things that I look for when I'm getting ready to promote somebody. Can you solve a problem? Are you willing to uphold the standards of the agency? And as a subordinate leader, are you willing to take the vision of the agency and push it through every rank within the agency? Now, I've spent a lot of time reading about leadership, studying leadership. Went away to the National Academy, National FBI Academy for 10 weeks, where about 150 of us from across the world talked about leadership. And we have these great debates about, Are leaders created or are they born? What does it mean to be a leader? All those discussions. Now, before we get deep into this, I want you to think about the 3 people that you admire most and you have modeled your life after. Just the 3. And at the end of this, I'll give you my 3. Now, for those of you who think Alexander the Great was your role model, you have a power issue. Okay? Nothing wrong with wanting to conquer the world, but it's really much more than the conquest. It's how you get there. How you get there is probably more important than getting there. Because there's shortcuts and there's undermining ways to get there, and you can cut people's knees out from under them to get there. Because great leaders, in my experience, are great followers. You have to know how to follow before you can lead. Period. If you can't follow, if you can't take that vision of your leadership and push it down the ranks and push it forward into the mission, are you a good follower? Are you solving problems at that point? Or are you part of the problem? We've heard a lot of discussion today about making people better. Let me tell you something. That is your number 1 responsibility as a leader. Your number 1 responsibility as a leader is to make the people that surround you either peer. Yes, you can make your leadership better, and your subordinates. It's risky business, though, isn't it? It's really risky business. Because if you're making everybody else around you greater and better, there's a slight risk to you. This is my sensei moment. Okay? Every great sensei will tell you, every great master will tell you, the greatest thing that they will ever do is to have their disciple be better than they are. If you can say that at the end of the day that you took somebody and made them better than you are, you have done the best leadership service ever. Because that's what we're all designed to do. A lot of people talk about, I have a hard time with this. I don't like hearing things about me. People say, oh, Sheriff man, you really do a great job and all that other stuff. And I look back and I go, time out. I have a lot of great people that make me look really darn good. And they do. You have a lot of great people that are out there doing the job, keeping you safe and protecting you in this county, and they make me look really good. Just like you make this nation look really good. But what happens when one of us slips up? What happens if somebody wearing that uniform slips up? Who wears that? Now this is where it's give and take here. I'm going to call you out. Who wears that? Every single uniform in here wears that. Just like every badge wears that badge. When I swear somebody in, I take that badge and put it in their hand, in my hand, and I shake their hand. I look them dead in the eyes and say, do nothing to dishonor this badge. Why? Okay. Affects everyone. You remember that word trust? that word trust. In order to be effective, you have to be trusted. In order for us, the people that wear these uniforms, to be effective, to be supported, and to be respected, you have to be trusted. If we can't trust you, then I can't use you anymore. It's kind of that simple. Well, that's harsh, Sheriff. Well, that'd be the second round of my contact with new hires, is I will meet with them, and it's their time to ask me questions. It's their time to ask me about the agency. Now, wait a minute, a new hire doesn't know anything about the agency. You'd be surprised. Remember that Google thing you saw up here? They use it. And one of the things I tell them is, all those horror stories you've heard about me, yeah, I am that hard case. All right? I am him. Because I will hold you to the standards of this agency. I owe every man and woman that work for me that. I don't owe anybody individually anything if you're not going to do it right, if you're not going to play it straight. So let's talk about problem solving. Why do you think I say problem solving is one of the keys to leadership? Oh. Come on. Why problem solving? Everybody wants to have their problem solved, right? Okay. Anything else? If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Let me ask you a question. How long are you going to follow somebody that can't fix your problem? Not very long, right? Leadership, remember this is about leadership? If you can't fix the problems that your people are facing, are you very good to them? If you can't fix the problems the community is facing, are you any good to them? Now, we all can stand up here and look pretty, got nice little things on our collars and everything, and sleeves and, spit shine boots. Well, you don't do that anymore, it looks like. We can look really good, but if we're not solving problems, we're not doing much for them. People expect us to be able to do what? You're the leader. They expect us to do what? Take care of your people. Solve those problems. A common theme, take care of your people. You're not taking care of your people if you're not working hard to solve the problems. Every mission you're given is what? Nothing more than a problem, really, right? You have to probably solve that problem. You go out and solve the problem. If you want to be an effective leader, if you want people to respect you, you have to be able to solve the problem. So, for me, after reading all these books and everything else, and going to all these trainings, it came down to just those three simple things of solve the problem. You have to be able to solve these people's problems. If not, you are part of the problem. And I can honestly tell you that I will take a look and go, what is, and this is with my other leadership core, what has this individual we're about ready to make a sergeant ever really done? What have they solved in this agency? What work have they really done? And I will tell you, folks, that your best, hardest worker bee, that guy, gal that just, they don't always make the best leaders. Now, wait a minute, that's kind of, no. They are able to perform a task, they're able to perform a mission, they are able to do their job skill, but leadership is a little bit more. Leadership is a little bit more. Leadership is willing to give more back. I can sit and do my job all day long, and if that's all I'm doing, am I giving anything really back to the team. If I'm not helping the person on my left and my right get better and solve their problems and help everybody move forward, am I really a leader? Or can I just sit in my cubicle and do my job? The left and the right are really important. So solve the problem. Leaders out there will tell you that as you go up, you notice certain things, that those who surround you seem to get narrower and narrower. That term, leadership, is a lonely endeavor. At times it can be. We're all basically herd animals. We like to be liked. One of the biggest problems in my profession is convincing people to move up into leadership. Now, why would that be? Now, I gave you a clue when I said we're all basically herd animals. They don't want to do what? They don't want that hard negative. They don't want to be that guy or gal that has to say these fatal words, "Oh, you made a mistake." Nobody wants to be that person, because when you're that person, what happens? Oh, they don't like you. Oh, yeah, that happens. That happens. That happens in real life. Give you a brief story. 2009, the state Supreme Court of the state of Washington came out with a ruling that said there is no clearly defined public doctrine that says a police officer has to tell the truth. Oh yeah, that was all our actions. Because since a puppy patrolman, I was taught you can make mistakes. Anybody make a mistake? Every day. You can make mistakes. You will survive most mistakes. But if you lie, you're what? Done. And so this is totally counter to everything that we were taught from the beginning. So me and 38 of my peers tried to change a state law that simply said, to make sure there was a clearly defined public doctrine, that simply said police officers should not lie or commit crimes on duty. Pretty simple, right? Folks, we couldn't even get that out of committee. Right? Why? Because at times, honor is trumped by money. When I sit with the leaders of a statewide police union in one of our representatives' office, Kevin Parker, who sponsored that bill, the first words out of the union's mouth was this. Well, I can't give you their exact words. We're being filmed. So I'll paraphrase. Sheriff, you've really made us angry. If you don't back down now, we're coming after you. Now, my good friend Casey Salisbury, Sheriff of Mason County, tells the story a little bit better. He says I kind of raised up and didn't happen. I just looked at him and went, you know, because the president of that organization is actually a police officer in Spokane. And I looked at his lobbyist and I looked at him and went, you know, he should have been able to tell you that just doesn't work with me. Do what you got to do. And they did. 2014 was a very fun year. They tried to get rid of me. Why? Because we have a standard, folks. And we need to live to that standard if we want to have that one vital aspect that we all depend on. And that is trust. In order for you to have the public's trust, because let me tell you something. The only reason I get to wear this badge is because those people say I can. The day they change their mind and flip a switch or a system, I no longer get to do that. Same goes for you. The only reason you get to wear those uniforms is because the people of this country said you can. And they expect you to wear them well, and they expect you to defend them and protect them, and they need to trust you. Same with my profession. It doesn't change. The public's trust is all I have. The day I lose it, we can no longer effectively do this job. So when I say you better uphold your standards, you better uphold your standards. More importantly, remember that we need to build people aspect. Upper level supervisor, have you ever heard this out of a subordinate leader's mouth? Saw it coming, sir. Anybody? If you don't know what I mean by that, somebody melted down, somebody got in bad trouble, somebody's getting Article 15, somebody's getting booted. We all saw it coming. Right? My question back to my subordinate leaders are, what did you do to stop it? You saw it happening. Where's my performance evaluations? Where's all the documentation? Where's your performance improvement plans? Where's all this stuff? You saw it coming, and I have nothing, and I'm getting ready to eliminate this individual from this organization. How dare you? You did a great disservice to this individual because you saw it coming. If you're going to lead, lead. Being a leader sometimes means you made a mistake. Now, I'll tell you something, folks. People make mistakes. I expect people to make mistakes. It's going to happen. If you make a pure-hearted mistake, I'll stand in front of you. I'll take the media's bullets. No offense to the media. But if you did a cold-hearted, calculated, I'm going to break the rules, there's nothing I'm willing to do for you. I won't. I will utter these words. You are terminated from this agency. Now, I have a simple rule on that. You never terminate somebody or heavily discipline somebody or discipline somebody any other time without being face-to-face. Why? It's your last gut check. Did you do your job right? Is this the proper level of discipline that has to happen here? Is this really the way we have to go? It's your last gut check. And there's two philosophies that I live by. One, I learned in college. The closest you'll ever come to terminating somebody is to kill them. Or let me rephrase that. The closest you'll come to killing somebody is to terminate them. Why is that? You're taking everything away from them. Everything. The way they put a roof over their family, they got kids, they got to feed. You're taking it all away. So you better take it serious when you utter those words. And you subordinate leaders better make sure that you did your best to prevent that from hitting my desk or your colonel's desk. You should have probably saved this, and 90% of them we can usually save if we would have done something. The second, anybody that tells you it's easy to terminate somebody, one of two things. Either they've never done it or they should never be allowed to do it. Because if it doesn't bother you, you need to cash it in. Because it should take a piece of you each and every time. Every time you have to utter those words, it should bother you. I've uttered them 66 times. And it's taken a piece of me each and every time. But you have to uphold the standards. Every organization out there has standards, folks. What's the difference between all those other organizations and the best?
High standards, high morale.
You said it. High standards, high morale. You combine that with great training, and you have a mix that you cannot fail. Period. The difference between mediocrity and high-level performance is holding people accountable, a word that is vastly fading from the vernacular of our nation. Accountability matters. The last, vision. Are you willing to follow somebody who can't tell you where we're going? Not very long. You better have a vision. You better have articulate it very clearly as to where we're going. For us at the Sheriff's Office, just one little vision, tiny one, be the best law enforcement agency in the state and nation. How do we get there? Highly trained, highly motivated, and honest, trusted people. I go around this community all over, and people go, he's everywhere. I am. Why? You don't follow what you don't know. You have to know and trust something before you'll follow it. If I want the public to trust my agency, they have to know the agency. So I'm everywhere. Now, I want to leave you with this thought, since we're all military. Sometimes being a leader means sometimes telling the upper end, you're making a mistake. And here's the price for not doing it. I was an airborne combat medic. My first assignment was Korea, Camp Hovey. We spent our time up on the DMZ. We're out on a patrol. Now the colonel, I was his personal medic, had shown the captain, who was given a bunch of brass from the south, a tour of our route, our patrol route into DMZ. Left hand at the rice paddy, because it was an important turn on that route. Now we're walking, and we get to the rice paddy, and the captain is going straight. And I'm just a young specialist, and about that time I went left turn at the rice paddy, and this major behind me went, and as we kept going through the rice paddy, I was going left turn at the rice paddy, and everybody's starting to, well, we kept walking. Pretty soon we're up on this hill. And the loudspeakers of the north are getting closer and louder, and that's how they're warning us. And suddenly this major went, Captain, I believe you're on Anderson Hill. Now, one thing a ground troop knows about Korea is it's basically a landmine, a giant one. And we spent the next 30 minutes trying to backtrack step by step out of and off that hill. We got to the rice paddy, and the major went right turn at the rice paddy. That little story is the price for not being willing to, one, listen when a subordinate is trying to give you a clue, and two, it taught me a giant lesson, because I probably should have just stopped and said, left turn at the rice paddy. Leadership requires courage. Always lead with courage. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff Ozzie.